Hello, sixth graders. It's Mr. Gardell. It's great to be back with you on this fabulous day. I hope you are doing well. Let me just ask you, how are you doing? Seriously, how are you doing today? I hope you're doing well. I really do. All right. Well, guess what? It's back. The jokes are back. I have an amazing joke for you today. Find a seat. No, 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 no. Find a seat. Thank you. All right. Here is our joke for today. What is a rabbit's favorite kind of music? What is a rabbit's favorite kind of music? I will give you 5 seconds starting now. All right, your time is up. So, what is a rabbit's favorite kind of music? It, of course, is hip hop. I cracked myself up. What an amazing joke, and I'm sure you got a laugh from it as well. All right, so the purpose of this video is to really review what you most recently completed, which would be the three branches of Minnesota's government. And what you were asked to do recently was to complete notes on each of the three branches of government. Today, I want to provide you with some clarification and even show you my own notes on the three branches of government. But before I show you mine, I just want you to understand that at any time, if you look at your notes, which I would strongly encourage you to do as you're listening to the video and watching the video, is when you're looking at your notes, if something doesn't look right or you want to add something or fix anything on your notes, just simply pause the video, change your notes, make them better. I'm totally okay with that. That's what learning's all about. But don't just sit there and go, oh, I got it wrong. Oh, well, such is life. I'll just leave it as is. Don't be that person. Make the changes, make yourself better, improve each and every day. And so, obviously, change your notes if needed. All right, let's get started. So, if you recall, your notes will look something like this with each of the branches listed on top as a title. Your goal was to come up with at least 4 bullet points of notes for each of the three branches, and then also come up with some type of image or visual that you think best represents each of these three branches of Minnesota's government. Remember, we're focused on Minnesota, not the United States' three branches of government, also known as the federal government. So let's get started with the executive branch. And you'll notice that these notes will look a little bit different, but I just want you to only see one branch at a time. So first of all, the executive branch is led by the governor, and the current governor of Minnesota is Tim Walz. You might have seen him several times somewhere out in social media or on the news due to COVID. The governor appoints government officials who oversee state agencies. And in the end, the governor does work with the state legislature. We'll talk about the legislative branch in a few minutes. But that governor does work with the state legislature. And ultimately, what they're trying to do is by working or collaborating together, they're trying to make it better for all Minnesotans. So, one thing that the state legislature will do is to come up with a bill. A bill is simply a proposed law. And so, the governor, once they receive the bill, has a choice. They either can assign or approve a bill that would then become law, or they can do something that's called veto or reject a bill, which would then make it not become a law. Now, it's very difficult when a governor veto or rejects a bill for it to become a law, but there is a way that it can happen. I just don't want to muddy the waters right now. So for right now, we're going to just focus on the executive branch, the governor specifically, either signing or vetoing a bill. Okay. And a bill, again, remember, is just a proposed law. All right. One thing that I really want you to think about when it comes to the executive branch, and notice how executive starts with E. The executive branch is the enforcers, EN, enforcers of laws. They implement the laws. An example of this would be the State Highway Patrol or police officers in general. For example, if I decide in the city of Hastings that I'm going to travel at 47 miles an hour in a 30 mile per hour zone, okay, I can get pulled over by the police officer. The police officer has every right to issue me a speeding ticket, and then I would then have to pay the fine. Okay, so again, enforcers of law, the executive branch. But as we think about the executive branch as a whole, it is led by the governor, and there you can see my image, or Tim Walz. The judicial branch is simply a system of courts. We got smaller courts, and it works all the way up to the highest court in Minnesota, which is known as the Minnesota Supreme Court. Their role, the judicial branch, is simply to interpret and apply the laws. So let's go back to me as an example. Let's say I commit a crime, and it would require me to go to court. Either the judge or a jury, okay, would decide my fate, whether I'd be found guilty or not guilty. And so really what the judicial branch is doing is to interpret what happened and then apply the laws. If I'm found guilty, I can, one, be fined, or in a worst case scenario, I can be sent to jail or prison for whatever crime I committed. And so again, the judicial branch is just interpreting and applying the laws. And in the end, like I stated, punishes those who break those laws. And again, those laws are created by the legislative branch, which we'll get to in a moment. And it's up to the executive branch leader, the governor, to determine if the governor will either sign the bill or proposed law or veto the bill or proposed law. And so my image is simply the judge's gavel, because I always think of judicial as judge. Lastly, the legislative branch. The legislative branch is known as the state legislature. They are made up of two parts, the House of Representatives and the Senate. Their goal is to work together to come up with a common bill. Okay, it has to have the same language. And ultimately, what they're creating is that bill that ultimately, or proposed law, that would be sent to the governor. And the governor then, remember, would have the decision whether to sign or veto it. And so really, when I think of the legislative branch or our state legislature, I think of individuals who are making the laws. They are the lawmakers. They are the creators of the law. Legislative lawmakers. That's how I remember it. So other things the legislative branch can do is to suggest amendments to the Minnesota Constitution. Yes, we do have a constitution in Minnesota. Amend just means to change. And another requirement of the legislative branch is to create a state budget every 2 years. And so when I think of the legislative branch, I think of the state capitol. Okay, what was it, about a year and a half ago, or last school year, the sixth graders were able to go on a field trip to the state capitol. And up in this area where you see those gold horses, we were able to go up there as a class, and we took an awesome photo. I still have it on my phone of my fourth period class, because that's who I took with me when we went to visit and tour the state capitol. But what an amazing photo. So, in a nutshell, that pretty much wraps up the three branches of government. And so, what I would encourage you to do is to again stop the video at any time and adjust or change your notes as needed. But just as a quick review, the executive branch, the role of the executive branch is to enforce and implement laws. Implement just simply means to put into effect. And we talked about my example of a police officer enforcing law when the driver, or me, was speeding. The judicial branch is just simply a role of the judicial branch is to interpret and apply the laws. The judge applies the law in the court case and found the individual guilty of a crime. So if I had to go to court, that judge or a jury, as I stated before, would determine if I was guilty or not guilty. And lastly, the legislative branch, their role is to make laws. Okay, they are the lawmakers, law creators. And as a joke, I used to tell my students that the Senate and House of Representatives had agreed on a bill or a law that stated all students must bring Mr. Gardell a chocolate Long John each month. It was just an inside joke. And so I know most of you don't know me as a teacher in person, but I would often joke with my students that they would have to bring me a treat. And my favorite donut was a chocolate Long John. So anyways, if you have any questions, I apologize. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me or contact your HOA teacher. Otherwise, have a fantastic day. Take care.